أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وبارك وسلم. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I welcome you all to our first lecture of Afghanistan economy. In this lecture we'll discuss the economic overview and economic statistics of Afghanistan. Then we'll have discussion on the past, then the current scenario and the future picture of Afghanistan's economy. But before discussing these topics, we'll have a short discussion on our previous lecture in order for us to recall what we have discussed about this subject. So let's start with our previous lecture's review. Last time we had discussion on the introduction of the subject. We studied that what topics are going to be discussed or going to be covered in this subject. So these are the main topics that we are going to cover inshallah in this subject. Also, we also discussed the methods of the lecture delivery and the source of references, and also what material should be used in order to cover all the topics of this subject, and how the information is gathered for the delivery of the lecture. We also had discussion on the importance of this subject last time. And now let's start with the first lecture, and that is overview of Afghanistan. In this lecture we'll have discussion on economic overview, economic statistics, guidance on current scenario, start of the problems, a war-torn economy but we are rich, new laws, rays of hope, and the way forward. So these are the key topics that we'll cover inshallah in this chapter. So the first lecture of this chapter is economy overview. Afghanistan is gradually recovering from decades of conflict. We have had conflicts for more than 5 decades now, and second last 40 decades were full of bloodshed and full of destruction and devastation as a whole in a country where Afghanistan not only lost its infrastructure but also Afghanistan lost its strong army and other important pillars of the economy. And in those 40 years, if we study most of the conflicts, there have been internal conflicts. So as a result of internal or civil war, we lost our status in the world, and also our economy collapsed. Before 2014, the economy had sustained nearly a decade of strong growth, largely because of international assistance. After 2001, from the start of 2002 until 2014 or till 2012, this 10 years, we have seen dramatic changes and a strong growth in Afghanistan's infrastructure, education sector, health sector, almost in all sectors. And all that is because of the international assistance. Means there has been very less um, internally, where we ourselves had done something to grow our country, but most of it was international assistance. Since 2014, however, the economy has slowed in large part because of the withdrawal of nearly 100,000 troops that had artificially inflated the country's economic growth. We know that with international assistance coming into Afghanistan, a lot of international troops coming into Afghanistan, these facts had artificially, inflated our economy. As I earlier mentioned, that there was nothing like rigid or I can say solid from our side, from Afghan side, that they could do in order to grow the economy. That solid things could be agricultural development, that could be production, that could be establishing steel mills and establishing the industries which could produce employment in the country, so most of the people are on the jobs, earning and playing their part in development of the country. These things did not happen. All happened was international troops coming in, and those troops coming into Afghanistan, they were needing assistance in logistics and all that. So this has created an artificial job in the economy. When they left, so all these services gone, and no employment was left, and most of the people lost their jobs, and that's the reason that we see no like a noticeable growth after 2014. But one thing for sure is that we have started on standing on our feet. We have started less relying on the international aid and on free money coming into our country. Now Afghans has realized that this free money coming into the country won't help. All what help will be our own efforts in form of establishing industries, in form of establishing the companies and production companies in every sector of the country. Despite the improvements in life expectancy, incomes, and literacy since 2001, Afghanistan is extremely poor, locked down, and highly dependent on foreign aid. Still, like we have seen noticeable improvements in life expectancy, in incomes levels, and literacy rate. But beyond these improvements, Afghanistan is still very extremely poor country, which is a landlocked country, highly dependent on the foreign aids. Life expectancy means the average life a person can live, and literacy means education. So we have seen that from 2012 till now, there have been a lot of improvements in the higher education and also in the education and the secondary education. There are a lot of private universities and public universities very actively participating, taking part in the educating Afghans. Besides, most of the Afghans, they were provided scholarship by different countries, for example, India and Pakistan and most of the other countries, neighboring countries. We have Chevening scholarships, we have Fulbright scholarships. So all these scholarships helped Afghans improve their education. So most of the young Afghans went abroad to America and to UK and to Pakistan and to India, and they came back with the qualification and with the degrees in their hands, and started serving their country. So Alhamdulillah, now we have a very strong education and knowledge base, not only in education but also in professional field as well. But these changes or these things were not possible before 2001. We had Taliban's regime for 5 years, and before that we had Mujahideen regime, and before that there were different regimes, and we see that all those regimes, what we see is bloodshed and killing each other, and destroying the infrastructure and the universities, the buildings, and nothing else. But after 2002, we have seen lots of positive improvements, but this bloodshed won't stop. Still we have this bloodshed going on, which is the real cause of this slow growth in Afghanistan's economy. If there is peace in our country, and if there is no security problems, we will see that Afghanistan's economy and as a country as a whole will grow in less than 10 years, and that growth, that improvement will be very amazing, like exemplary. Most of the population continues to suffer from shortages of housing, clean water, electricity, medical care, and jobs. So these things are the current problems that we have. We have shortage of housing, we have shortage of clean water, we have shortage of power and electricity, we have problems with medical care, and the most important is joblessness. Corruption is also one of the key problems that we have. Insecurity is another key problem. Weak governance is another key problem, and lack of infrastructure and government's difficulty in extending rule of law to all parts of Afghanistan. And these are things which pose challenges to future economic growth, right? So all these problems we have currently, these problems give tough time to the government as well to play their part in developing the country into every Afghan as a whole. Afghanistan's living standards are among the lowest in the world. That's the fact that we have. The international community remains committed to Afghan's development, pledging over $86.8 billion at 10 donors conference between 2016 to 2020. So this has been pledged by 10 donors conference. At the 10 donors conference, that Afghanistan will be helped with $86 billion, and this money will be spent in the development of Afghanistan. Afghanistan will need to overcome number of challenges, and those challenges are there were some problems that I earlier mentioned in point number 1 and point number 2 of this slide, but now we have biggest challenges, which is the combination of all those problems that I mentioned in point number 1 and point number 2 of this slide. And those challenges are low revenue collection. Revenue collection, like in Afghanistan, people still does not know what tax is, so mostly nobody is willing to pay the tax to the government, and they considered it to be a burden or to be like a cruelty from the government side. So we need to increase the public awareness about that. We see the developed countries in the world. All these countries have not developed as a result of the donations and help from the outside. They are developed in what we see now, and as we see now, and how they are, it's because of their internal revenue, and that is the taxes. Afghans have to now realize that they have to pay the taxes, and they have to realize the fact that if they want to see their country develop like other countries, they have to pay the taxes, and they have to help themselves by paying the correct amount of taxes. Job creation is another big problem. I earlier mentioned that there is lack of industries, there is lack of biggest steel mills and flour mills and that, and all those such kind of big plants where people could start their job in. And the biggest reason, I think, is the insecurity. Most of the attention of the government these days is busy with bringing peace and security to the country. So if there is no peace and there is no security, all these problems will rely. They will not get resolved, because the biggest problem, or the mother of the problem, is the insecurity. When security comes, every other problem could be solved. So high level of corruption in government, and also like in Afghanistan, every single person is corrupt, right? Starting from a person who's doing a very small business of his own, scavenger, to the high rank government official. All of them, like every one of us, do corruption to the level that we can. So we have to first realize that the corruption has to be stopped, and this could be started by each one of us, from ourselves. Government capacity, our government still lack capacity. We need to, work on our children to make them capable of doing good governance. And also public infrastructure. Our public infrastructure, like public hospital, universities and all that, all those facilities we have, it's not that strong facility that people could get the help of. So mostly private facilities are used. If it is a university, if it is a school, if it is a transport, so mostly we see people relied on the private facilities. So government need to focus on public infrastructure provision as well. So these are the biggest challenges that Afghanistan is facing these days. Now let's talk about the economic statistics. Afghanistan covers an area of 652,225 square kilometers. Our population is 37.17 million, and this is as per the World Bank report of 2018. Our life expectancy rate is 64.13 years, and this is based on the report of 2017. Our military unit is Afghanistan AFA. Till 2001 it was AFA, but from 2001 onwards till now it's AFN, Afghanistan Afghani, right? So AFA meant Afghanistan Afghani, but now AFN means Afghani. So that is our military unit. Our central bank is called the Afghanistan Bank, which serves as a regulatory body in the country, focusing on monetary policy and control on money supply. Also publishment of the money, currency and all that is done by the central bank, the Afghanistan Bank. And the Afghanistan Bank is the bank of the banks. All the other private and public banks, they have their accounts there, and they are regulated by the Afghanistan Bank. Our type of economy is a free market economy. In free market economy, it's because of low production, internal production. Our internal production is it's equal to none, That's why it's better to have a free market economy. So that's what we have. Competition level is very low because there is no internal production, and that's why competition is very low. There is no competition at all. Every businessman going outside and bringing in their products has a free choice to choose the price and what price they sell, how they sell. There is no less control from the government side, and this has resulted in low competition. Our economy is mainly agricultural base. Our main cash crop is poppy. Tax and other revenues are 12.5% of the GDP. If we have $100 of the GDP, in this $100, 12.5% the taxes, so it's very less. In other countries it's like 99%, it's like 95%, it's like 80%. In Afghanistan it's 12%. It shows that Afghans are not paying taxes, and that's why we rely on international aids and in all those grants and all those free money coming in, right? Agricultural products are opium, wheat, fruits, nuts, wool, mutton, sheepskins, and lambskins and puppies. These are our agricultural products. Exporting commodities are opium, fruit, nuts, carpets, wool, and precious gems. Our GDP is 19.36 billion USD, and this is as per the report published in 2008. GDP purchasing power parity is 72.9 billion. This is as per the result of a report published in 2019. GDP per capita is $520. Our export is 784 million dollars, and this is as per the report published in 2017. And most of our exports, you can see it's to India 56%. To Pakistan we make 29.6%. Like we can say to India we make as 57% of our exports are to India, and 30% of our exports are to Pakistan, 3% exports are to Iran, and 2% exports are to Iraq, and 2% exports are to Turkey. And our imports, you see, it's 7.6 billion. So you see there is much difference between the imports and exports. Our exports are less than our imports. We make more import and less export. It means that we have less production and then our consumption. We consume more. So 7.6 billion is a huge import and is a huge deficit. So from China it's 21%, from Iran 20%, from Pakistan 11 or 12%, from Kazakhstan 11%, from Uzbekistan 7%, from Malaysia 5%. So these are the exports from different countries that we make. Our foreign reserves, including dollars and gold, they accumulate to 6.1 billion, and that is the khazana that we have currently in our country. This is our khazana. Our budget is composed of domestic revenue and expenditures. Our domestic revenue is 8.7 billion, while our expenditures are 27.3 billion. You see that we have less income than the expenses, right? We earn more, we spend more. So where does this other extra money comes from? How we fulfill our needs? That is this free money. With the help of this free money, these grants and aids coming into Afghanistan, like we generate 8.7 billion and then we spend 27.3 billion. So it's more like 14 billion or 15 billion extra expenses we have, and this 15 billion is covered from by the grants and this aids and this free money coming in, which is very, very dangerous news, not a good news. It's a very bad news, right? Unemployment rate is above 35% and inflation rate is 6%. GDP composition by sector: our agriculture sector contributes to our GDP by 12%, industries 22%, industries 22%, and services 56%. So you see, most of the contribution is from service sector, which should not be the case. We earlier studied that our economy is agriculture based, so most of the contribution to the GDP should be from agriculture, not from service, right? It's more from service because of these international troops and all these international investment in Afghanistan, right? And mostly it contributes a service economy, but Afghanistan is not a service economy. Afghanistan is agriculture economy, so this percentage should be higher on agriculture side, not the service side. So we have to focus on this to improve on our agriculture sector and our industry sectors, and then service sector as well, but these two should be more than the services. So that was all about the economic statistics. Now let's talk about the current situation. We have seen major improvements after 2002 in Afghanistan, and that's because of the international aid, and still we are receiving international aid from different countries. Few businessmen control the trading of Afghanistan, and there is a Zizi family, and there are Nadri family, and these are like 7 or 8 big families in Afghanistan who has controlled entire economy, entire trading sector. Corruption in Afghanistan still is at its peak, and although the previous government and the current government, they are doing their best to avoid corruption and to get rid of the corruption, but they have failed because Afghans themselves had to start thinking on this. Every person, every individual, every Afghan should start from itself to fight with corruption. If he on individual base does not start stopping corruption or fighting against corruption, governments could do nothing. One of the world's poorest economy, still we are one of the world's poorest economy. A relative stability has come into our economy because now the current government and previous government, they have done a lot on bringing stability to the country by focusing on internal development, industrial development, and all that. We have started exporting to different countries with the help of by using airways and seaways. So that is a good news for us. GDP growth high but volatile. Our GDP is growing, but it's volatile sometimes. Like, it's not a gradual growth, it's a volatile growth. So it's by average we have 9.2% of growth. Exchange rate is floating. Sometimes we see Afghani at the start, Afghani was set to be $1 to 50 Afghani, but now it has reached to 68. There was some time it reached to 80, but now it has again came down to 68. Joblessness is a big problem in current situation. Insecurity and ethnic issues. This is I think one of the biggest problem. It's like more dangerous than the cancer to a nation. Ethnic issues, and these ethnic issues were on their top during the civil war last 40 or 50 decades. We have to stop this nonsense, focusing on ethnic issues like you are Pashtun and Tajik and this and that. We have to stop this. We are all Afghan. We have to work for Afghanistan, and we have to focus on our brotherhood. That's what needs to be done. So this is the current balance. Start of the problem. Afghanistan, when basically problems started in Afghanistan, it was 1970. 1970, if you study the history, it was Dawood Khan's time. After Dawood Khan was thrown down by some of the so-called Afghans, we have started facing the problems in our country, right? So after 1970, we have started getting into the troubles and problems from economic point of view and from all the aspects. So the biggest, the problem that we have today is because of 1970s Dawood Khan overthrowing. Afghanistan-Pakistan border is another big problem, and when Pakistan came into existence, there is a Durand line was created by the British. So that is another big problem. Between two Muslim nations. Ties with Soviet Union, when we started having strong ties with the Soviet Union, which was a superpower at that time. So the other part of the superpower world did not like us, and from that time they have started creating problems in Afghanistan. And there have been several invasions. One first invasion was by English, second invasion was by Russian, and third invasion by American. And all these invasions resulted to the civil war at the end. And the civil war is a big problem also in our country. Then we had Taliban's regime, and after Taliban again the international invasion happened in Afghanistan. Again, now it's finishing. Again, the civil war is starting between Afghans. And which with each this invasion and this thing happening, our economy has been affected severely. And not only we lost the infrastructure, we lost everything. And also we lost the human capital as well. Most of the Afghans, they migrated to Pakistan, to Iran, to Europe, and to America, to Canada, to Australia. So all those educated people, they left the country, and whatever left in the country was illiterate and uneducated people, knowing nothing how to develop their country. So that is another big problem with us. Afghanistan's economy is basically a war-torn economy, right? We have least developed country, world's poorest country. We have seen decades of war, and there is no real investment in Afghanistan. All we have is free money coming in, and that money is invested not in somewhere which could really bring solid development of Afghanistan, but that free money coming in is invested somewhere where it is wasted all over. We are under poverty line. We also face the drought and natural disasters. There is a problem of money laundering. We have limited electricity. There is lack of human capital. We have damaged physical infrastructure. Irrigation system, there is lack of irrigation system. There is lack of road networks. There is lack of power grids. Less available land due to mines. When Russia left Afghanistan, they spread the mines all over the country. So after they left, for 30 to 40 years, this land was fighting with Afghans, and most of the Afghans, they lost their lives or part of their body due to these landmines. There is trafficking of timber and precious stones and opium, and this trafficking is still, it's no one else, it's the Afghans doing it. So we as a whole, as an Afghan, we have to start doing something from ourselves, right? Nobody will develop our country. It's we that we will develop our country. So that's why I always say, start from yourself. Don't blame anybody else. We have to blame ourselves, because all what happened is because of us. It's not because of somebody else. It's all because of us. If it is you or me or somebody else, by the end of the day, it's Afghan. So it's Afghan doing it with itself. But we don't have to lose our hope. Despite the fact that we have all these issues and all these problems, still we are rich. Why? Because our location is a very strategic location. This landlocked country could be turned into a roundabout, right? Where all the trading countries will cross from Afghanistan, and it should be a crossroad of all trading routes. Because we link South Asia with Central Asia, we link Middle East with the Eastern Asia. So that is a strategic location. But all we need to do is know ourselves. We have up to $3 trillion mines and minerals, right? Wealth underground, 3 trillion. It's a big or huge wealth that Afghans have, and that consists of copper, coal, construction material, gemstones, uranium, iron, gold. All these are precious things that we have under the land, underground. And if there is peace in Afghanistan, we can extract them out, and then we can be a rich country. Exporting booms. Now, alhamdulillah, we have seen Afghanistan's exporting to different countries, not by land, by air, and by sea as well. We have seen new legislations which could also help improvement in the country. We have seen educational boom, which will help in producing human capital, right? As a result, improving the capacity of the governance in the country. We have also seen that new legislations, new laws have been passed, new legal framework have been developed, commercial law is developed, central bank law and banking law have been developed, new law on domestic and foreign investment has been developed. There were many reforms in ISA, Afghanistan Investment Support Agency, which is now working as Afghanistan Central Business Registry. New agreements with neighboring countries have been made by Afghanistan Chamber of Commerce and Industries and Ministry of Commerce and Industries. Now we have one-stop shop where investors can go in and solve their problems with respect to investment in Afghanistan. We have alhamdulillah now started water management and control. With the help of this we can construct dams and all that, and which will help in not only improving our agriculture sector as well as our industrial sector, because water management and control will help with our water irrigation system and also with our electricity. So it's very, very important. Rays of hope. In future, these are the hopes that we have, that inshallah there will be rapid development in the country. 22 people out of 181 are starting their own businesses, and this is the report done by World Bank. Support international community. Commerce and trade are growing in the country. Alhamdulillah, our mining sector is growing. With this, we can solve a lot of problems of the country. We have now started coming to the peace with the help of economic development, and the culture of tax is being introduced, and now people have finally realized that they have to pay taxes, especially in the cities. In villages and countries it's still unknown to the people, but at least in the cities, especially the biggest cities, people have realized that the tax is something that needs to be paid. And we have started on focusing on macroeconomic stability, and there is macroeconomic stability coming to the country, alhamdulillah. We are reviving our financial sector. We are supporting the private sector, and there is a public-private collaboration by the Ministry of Finance. It's a business model which has helped a lot of countries in developing, and also Afghanistan is also focusing on it. Public-private collaboration or partnership, simplification and rationalization of custom tariffs. So this is also one of the good news, that government has finally started simplifying all these rules and regulations and these processes of customs and tariffs. People are making investment inside the country rather than taking out all the money. That's also a good news. And a lot of educated Afghans are returning home from abroad, from different European and American and Australian and Canadian and other subcontinents and continents. New dams are being constructed. See, alhamdulillah, few dams have been made, and there are few others under construction, and few others will be constructed in the future, which will help solve most of the issues that we have. And what should we do? We have to implement a functioning payment system for international and domestic transfers. So on this there is also a lot of work done by the government. This payment system has been simplified and unified. Smooth regulatory conditions for foreign banks. That's what the government is focusing on and doing it, to have a strong control on the finances and financial sector. Government needs to focus on job creating projects, and government have to focus on transit bonds and transport insurances. Government has to focus on investment on human resources, support of private chamber for exports, implement capacity building programs, building the power projects, routing the aids and grants in industrial development. So these are the things that government needs to focus in the future, and that's what government is doing currently as a way forward to help Afghanistan with the problems that we have. And inshallah, there will be a day that we see a grown and developed Afghanistan. So this is all about today's lecture. Thank you so much for being with me. Please watch this lecture carefully from first slide to the last slide. There are totally 13 to 12 slides which we studied. If you have any questions, any comments, any suggestions, please come back to me. I'll be more than happy to help you and make each and every point clear. May Allah bless all of us, and may Allah bring peace, security and stability to our country. May all of the Afghans be prosperous and happy. Ameen summa ameen. Thank you so much.